Leroy Satchel Paige was born in July 7th of 1906 in Mobile, Alabama, and he was a Negro League pitcher who became a legendary player and also spent some time in the major leagues. He was a right-hand pitcher with a considerable fastball, but he also developed a mastery of hesitation pitches and a variety of deliveries. He is considered to be one of the greatest players in baseball history. This is Country Boy from One Mic Black History, and this episode is about the life of Satchel Paige. As usual, if you like this, please consider donating to our Patreon page, hit that subscribe button, and please review us on Apple Podcasts. Satchel Paige was a black baseball player. Born in Mobile, Alabama in 1906 in a shotgun house without plumbing, his family changed the spelling of their name from Page to Page with an I in the middle of the 20th century, and Page would come to explain, "My folks started out spelling their Page and later stuck an I in there to make themselves sound more high tone." He first picked up baseball while in reform school after he had been remanded for 5 years for stealing jewelry. According to Page, he got his nickname as a youth after his mother sent him down to earn money carrying luggage for businessmen at the local train station. He became frustrated with the amount that he was being paid, so he rigged a pole to carry several bags at once to make the job pay better. His co-workers reportedly told him that he looked like a walking satchel tree, thus the nickname stuck. He entered the Negro Leagues playing for the Chattanooga Black Lookouts in 1926, then entered the Negro National Leagues for the Birmingham Black Barons. Page's fastball was so unfathomably powerful they made up for his lack of a curveball, but Page did have an auxiliary pitch and a hesitation pitch. Page would hesitate at the top of his delivery just before the moment of completing the throw and would leave hitters striding forward to meet a non-existent pitch. Page was also a great promoter and would make headlines for the names of his various pitches. No matter the name, Long Tom, Trouble Ball, Bat Dodger, the pitch was always the same. Page's slow gait and his double windups, even his habit of getting to the park at the last minute, his antics could be seen as pandering to an image of how white Americans saw people of color or how African Americans saw themselves through Hollywood. But either way, Page did not care because he was here to make a name for himself. Paige was so coveted by many teams that he made a lucrative industry as leaving teams as almost as fast as he could agree to a contract without a bit of guilt. Since the predatory behavior by club owners in the black game discouraged player loyalty, and Paige was a black man in the South who had become an authentic celebrity. So R.T. Jackson, owner of the Black Barons, knew that he could not crimp Page's personality, so he would rent Paige out to other teams for a few days or as long as a week, with the money being divided by the two. After the collapse of the first Negro League in August of 1931, Paige would put on a Pittsburgh Crawford uniform, an independent club owned by Gus Greenlee. In his first game against the Homestead Grays at Forbes Field, Paige didn't start, but he pitched in relief of Harry Kincaid in the fourth, and Paige held the Grays scoreless with 6 strikeouts and 5 innings of relief work. The Crawford center fielder Harold Tinker will recall that the Grays hardly were able to hit a foul ball off Paige, and he was throwing aspirin tablets. In 1932, Gus Greenlee also signed Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, and Ted Radcliffe from the Homestead Grays to assemble one of the finest baseball teams in history. The team also played in the newly built Greenlee Field, which was the first completely black-owned stadium in the country. Paige would go 10-4 with an ERA of 3.19 in 1932, and in 1934, Greenlee would organize the new National Negro League and would create the East-West All-Star Game. By 1934, Paige was at the peak of his career, and the Crawfords had huge crowds and headlines all season long, but the issue was that Paige failed to remain with the Crawfords long enough for the team to hit his stride. Paige would appear on Sundays for league games, but as soon as he left the mound, he would be off to the next gig for whatever team that was paying. League solidarity and loyalty meant nothing for Paige. He was going to do his own thing and kept his teammates miles apart. So Gus Greenlee arranged for outside gigs for Paige so they could split the fees, and also so he could keep Paige on a leash for as long as he could. Paige's constant absence, even though approved by the owner, cost the team league victories and allowed the American Giants to win the first half of the Negro League season. season title in 1934. With the East-West game coming soon, Greenlee was worried that Paige was going to miss out on the game for some random semi-pro event. Paige had no respect for Negro League formalities and felt that he was bigger than the black game itself. Even though he brought in huge crowds, Negro League players brooded about Paige's greed. Paige, who did return for the East-West games in 1934, and it must have been a shock for Gus Greenlee because he had taken no chances and had started Stuart Jones as the starting pitcher. But with Paige, he was always the main attraction for any park that he was in, and he spent 5 innings in the bullpen and was called into the scoreless game into the 6th and boosted the energy of the team while shutting down the West squad to 1 hit over the final innings. In 1934 season, Satchel Paige turned his attention to the Dakotas, but it wasn't until Ted Radcliffe, a riding buddy of Paige's from Mobile, Alabama, who joined the Pittsburgh Crawfords in 1934, but midway through the 1934 season, Crawford walked out on Gus Greenlee and took an offer to play for a semi-pro team in Jamestown, North Dakota. The team was already full of ex-Negro League players, and Radcliffe seduced Paige to jump from the Crawfords to finish the season with integrated play in Bismarck, North Dakota. The offer was $400 a month and an automobile off the lot of the team owner's used car lot. Greenlee tolerated this defection since the season was almost over, and Paige kept his promise to return on time for the East-West game, but he was worried about Paige might be on his way out and attempted to buy his loyalty with goodwill. When Paige married Janet Howard, a waitress from Gus Greenlee's Crawford Grill in the fall of 1935, Greenlee hosted the reception at the Crawford Grill that lasted all night, had 3 big bands, and a tap dance show hosted by Bojangles Robinson, who was Paige's best man. During the reception, Gus Greenlee shoveled a contract with the same $350 a month that Paige had been making under the very drunk Paige, who scribbled his name on it, not knowing what he was signing. When Paige did sober up and realized what Greenlee had done to him, he immediately walked out and accepted an offer from Neil Orr Churchman for a team in Bismarck, North Dakota. Paige was making a ton of money, but he was a man without a country. Once Bismarck reached the crest of small-time baseball, Churchill jettisoned his star after hearing Paige's tales of entertaining white women in his trailer on the edge of town. Churchill went on to become the mayor of Bismarck, but Paige was cast aside in Blackball C. In violation of his contract, Gus Greenlee banned him from the Negro Leagues, and he had no reason to lift the ban since he was making a ton of money without Paige. Without Paige, Crawfords went 36-32 and won the second half title over the elite Giants. Gus Greenlee was doing so well that he even forgave Paige after Paige decided to swallow his pride, and the two reconciled their differences. During the 1935 season, Paige was taken in by J.L. Wilkerson and his traveling team, but that was only for 1 year. After the deal was completed, he sought a way to get back into the league that banned him, with Tom Wilson providing an opening back with the Crawford Giants. Paige immediately accepted Tom Wilson's invitation, but it had to be cleared with Gus Greenlee. During the winter season, though, Paige formed his own team with county promoter Johnny Burton to face white major league club of Bay Area natives, including a minor leaguer about to join the New York Yankees by the name of Joseph Paul DiMaggio. Paige's team was composed mostly of black sandlot players, but Paige still only gave up 3 hits, one to DiMaggio to drive in the winning run. After DiMaggio got a hit on Paige, DiMaggio was so excited that he pronounced himself ready to play in New York and said that Paige was the best and fastest pitcher that he had ever faced. The legend of Satchel Paige grew, and DiMaggio earned a lot of mileage from the game. While public spectacles like this convinced Paige that he was bigger than black baseball and maybe even white baseball, Paige further committed himself to freelancing to the highest bidder. In 1937, tropical countries typically conducted their season in the winter to draw black and white baseball players for a paid vacation. But now Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico look to expand their leagues to the summer in direct competition of American baseball. Satchel Paige, always the free agent, would violate his contract and sign to play summer ball in the Dominican Republic for $6,000. Paige would also be hired as an agent and was given a cash of $30,000 to induce other Crawford players to come play for the team as well. Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Cool Papa Bell would join forces with Savaro Garcia and Lázaro Salazar to form the greatest roster of all time. Gus Greenlee, president of the Negro National League, would attempt to reverse the tide by filing court orders, but neither Gus nor the U.S. court system could carry any muster with dictator Rafael Trudeau in the Dominican Republic. With Gus Greenlee's leadership already under fire, Greenlee also failed to court the players back to the Negro Leagues. Greenlee would turn to ripping the ringleader Paige in the black press, stating that Paige was about as dependable as a second-hand pair of suspenders, and that Paige and the other jumpers would be barred from the Negro Leagues. The players believed that they were going to a Caribbean paradise, but by the fall and the end of the season, everyone was dying to get off of the island. Rafael Trudeau had armed guards follow them everywhere to the ball field with no detours and line the field during the games. They didn't understand the language or the customs, and the players had no idea that Trudeau was attempting to protect them from harm, and they felt like they were being kidnapped and were only allowed to play baseball on the weekends. During the championship series, the players had taken the field between two rival armies on opposite stands, and it went on like this for a 7-game series. At the end of the championship, the Americans raced back to the hotel, packed their bags, and caught the first boat back to the States, everyone but Satchel Paige. He stayed behind on the island, pitching in exhibition games rather than having to beg to get his job back in the Negro Leagues. In 1937, Abe Manley would offer Gus Greenlee a flat payment for Paige, and Greenlee took the money and considered himself lucky to get a cent for black baseball's problem child. Abe Manley would attempt to protect his asset and obtain an injunction that forbade Paige for playing for any team in New York or New Jersey. But by the time of the injunction, Paige was long gone. He was playing in the Mexican League for $2,000 a month and left Greenlee out of $5,000 because Paige refused to report to Newark, and with that, Greenlee attempted to ban Paige from baseball forever. While Paige was in Mexico, he was experiencing stiffness and soreness in his pitching shoulder and attempted to heal himself by throwing even harder. But in 32, and with years of self-abuse and bars, the pain spread to his right shoulder. When doctors examined him, they told him they would probably never pitch again. With rumors of his injury, it was not so easy to get around his second lifetime ban. Paige even inquired about coaching and managing gigs and would later state, "They wouldn't even take me for my name." That was until J.L. Wilkerson took a gamble on Paige's name, and he earned a fortune from it. J.L. would sign him to Kansas City's traveling team. It would limit his appearances, while gradually Satchel Paige's arm recovered, and he started striking out pitchers with his old frequency. The traveling team even started out-earning the Kansas City Monarchs. J.L. Wilkerson wanted to promote Paige to the Monarchs, but he still was banned in Negro Leagues. But after Paige went to Puerto Rico League, he won the championship in 1940. His services were now a hot issue. Abe and Ava Manley mailed Paige the New York Eagles contract, believing they still owned him after their deal with Gus Greenlee. But Paige wanted Ava Manley to be included as part of the contract. When Ava told Paige that she was having none of that proposal, Paige went back to his all-star team, pending elevation to the Kansas City Monarchs. This latest walkout by Paige left the Negro Leagues in crisis. By 1940, 24 players defected to the Summer Mexican League, and during the league meetings in 1940, the topic of discussion was the Paige problem. The two Negro League presidents decided during the league meetings that the Manleys could not force Paige to play for the New York Eagles. So in late 1940, Wilkerson believed that it was time for Paige to put on a Kansas City Monarchs uniform. Paige's first start with the Kansas City Monarchs would draw 10,000 fans versus the American Giants. The large black turnout during World War II for Negro League games changed the fortunes of Satchel Paige. Since Paige was the main attraction at the 1942 East-West game, Paige would not only ask for a cut of the gate, but he wanted it in advance. J.L. Wilkerson had begun chartering a DC-3 airplane to ferry Paige to and from games, a luxury enjoyed by no other player. Wilkerson didn't want to ask the two league presidents for an advance on Paige for the gate, so he paid Paige $800 $300 out of his own pocket. Given Page's status, he was sought out by the white press on the issue of league integration, and he explained at the time and the conditions weren't right for a mandated end to the color line. He was worried not only about playing in the South, but also in the North, where he couldn't stay or eat with his team at many places. He stated that all the niceties in the world from both sides would not knock out Jim Crow, but Paige also had his own agenda. His income would drop if he joined the majors, and he wasn't the best spokesman for the black game in terms of integration because his remarks supported the rationalizations of many of the baseball's white obstructionists. Paige and the Kansas City Monarchs won the Negro League championship in 1943, with Paige feeling like black baseball was at its whim. And prior to 1944 East-West game, the owners added a new rule that removed the voting power of the East-West game from the fans, and the owners would choose the participants themselves. The owners knew this was a risky move, but they quashed any player dissent by arranging to pay $200 per player, $300 per manager, and a pool of $300 per club to be split by all the players not chosen by the East-West game. The other players accepted these terms, but Paige could no longer get his usual cut of the gate. So Paige attempted to lead a walkout in the 1944 East-West game if all proceeds did not go to the Army-Navy Relief Fund. By this point, the event was so large that even Paige couldn't tarnish it. In 1943, 46,000 fans showed up to the East-West game, with almost a quarter of them being white. The East-West game outdrew the white Major League All-Star game in 1938, 1942, 43, and would do it again in 1946 and 1947. So Commissioner J.B. Martin called Paige's bluff and declared him ineligible for the 1944 All-Star game. Paige was able to garner some sympathy from the black press, but the East-West game pressed on without him, and this marked the end of Paige in the Negro League as an icon. He remained as a part-time pitcher for the Kansas City Monarchs until 1947 and spent most of those seasons on the barnstorming trails with semi-pro teams that would offer substantial sums for 3 or 4 innings of work. Paige would avoid future East-West games out of spite, but his absence was missed less and less. Paige was 41 when his Negro League days had ended in 1947. Jackie Robinson had just broke the color barrier, and Paige decided to take his chances on the major leagues. At the time, many major league scouts wondered how old he really was and if he had enough in the tank to strike out major league pitchers. Cleveland Indians owner Bill Vett took a chance and signed Paige for the 1948 season, and as it turned out, Paige was still a very productive pitcher. He would go 6-2 with an ERA of 2.48 as part of the Cleveland Indians World Series championship team. He was the first African American to pitch in the World Series, with his only appearance in the Fall Classic during Game 5 loss against the Boston Braves, where he pitched 2/3 of an inning without allowing a run. Paige would stay with the Indians for the 1949 season, going 4-7 at the age of 42. After the season in Manitoba Dakota League, he and Vett would unite with the St. Louis Browns from 1951 to 1953. In his final season in the majors, at 46 years old, Paige went 9-3 with an ERA of 3.5. In 1971, Paige was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Negro League Committee, and he would pass away in 1982 at the age of 75. A true Iron Man, he pitched in the Dominican Republic and Mexican leagues in the winter, pitched in the Negro Leagues on the weekend, and would barnstorm during the week. He would travel as much as 30,000 miles a year and pitch for any team that was willing to pay his price. He pitched in a total of 2,500 games during his 30-year career, winning 2,000 of them. One of baseball's most famous players of any color, he lived a sort of life of myth that became difficult to separate from reality. Paige was unparalleled in his talents and renowned for his hard fastball, his signature hesitation pitch, and his ability to do anything with the ball that he wanted. This has been One Mic Black History. I'm your host, Country Boy, and as usual, if you like this, please hit that subscribe button. Also, please consider donating to our Patreon page and review us on Apple Podcasts. Peace.